Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. About a year ago, I made this video about the Fisker Ocean because it was kind of a solar electric vehicle. It has this solar roof that can give you about 3 miles a day. It's a little bit of a gimmick, so it's not really a solar electric vehicle, but it was an interesting car, and it's by a startup company started by Henry Fisker. He made the Fisker Karma, but that didn't work out that well, and he restarted another company recently called Fisker, and he's making this ocean. And I just found out some news today that was very interesting and very unusual and kind of impressive about startup EVs. So here's a brief history. Fisker talked about the Ocean about 3 years ago, around the same time Aptera started announcing their vehicle. And then in October of 2022, they closed a deal with Magna Steyr to be the contract manufacturer for the car. And at that time, when they closed that deal, they said here that they were going to start production in November of 2022. So so it says right here, November 22, that's when they're going to start production. And they said this in October of 2020. So 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, they said they were going to start production now. Usually, we're used to seeing these things slip in price, in scheduling. And then here, exactly a year ago, so this was November 17th, 2021. They kind of debuted at the LA Auto Show. And at that time, they gave a very specific date for production. So I'm going to show you down here. Here we go. Production of the Fisker Ocean is scheduled to start on November 17th, 2022, exactly 1 year after its public debut. So this was in 2020. Then a year later, their timeline has not slipped at all. They said 2 years ago that it was going to be November 2022. Then a year ago, they became more specific and they said November 17th, 2022. And I haven't ever seen a company give like an exact date for production before. And then lo and behold, November 17th, Fisker Ocean commences production in Austria on schedule. So they've started production. And if you look at it actually a little bit more carefully, here's an article dated September 21, 2022. And if you look at these pictures, I mean, they're already building these things. So they were building these things 2 months before their slated production date. So they have actually beat their production estimate in terms of it, which I've never seen happen before. That's just crazy and kind of impressive. You guys all remember the Cybertruck? It was announced back in 2019. Elon Musk said that it would be on the market imminently, and we should be able to buy it by the end of 2021. Then, as that deadline approached, they said, "Oh, actually, we're going to do it in 2022." Then they said, "No, it's going to be late 2022," and now it's going to be maybe mid 2023. So Cybertruck has been delayed like 4 times, and this is by an established car maker like that knows how to make vehicles, Tesla. And then of course we know about Lordstown. So Lordstown was announced in June of 2020 in that area, and they said that they'll be the first electric pickup on the market. Well, we know that's not true because the first electric pickup to hit the market was, I think, was it the Rivian or the Ford F-150? Well, it was one of those two. Probably the Ford F-150 if you want to actually count actual numbers of cars on the road. But anyway, they said that they planned on being delivered in early 2021 to fleet customers and then retail customers in late 2021. Well, we know that didn't happen. Then here it is in August of 2021. They said, "Oh, we're going to start production next month, and then we're going to start commercial deliveries in Q2 of 2021." Again, that didn't happen. Um, and then in September of 2022, so just about 2 months ago, they did start production. Finally, they've produced 2 trucks, a total of 2 trucks, and they hope to build 50 by the end of the year. So that's very slow production. And they almost went bankrupt. Remember, they got bailed out by Foxconn, who makes, Apple iPhones for Apple. They bought out Lordstown's car manufacturing plant in Lordstown, Ohio, and they want to become a contract manufacturer, kind of like Magnus Steyr is for Fisker. Foxconn is going to do that for Lordstown, and also interestingly, Fisker is making a cheaper vehicle called the Pear, which they've contracted with Foxconn to make at the Lordstown plant, which is interesting. And actually, Fisker, after meeting their production deadline, I'm kind of interested in them. I'm going to check out the pair a little bit more seriously. When I saw Fisker saying that they're going to start production in November 2022, I was like, well, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it because everyone slips production. And we're interested in Lordstown kind of because, Lordstown and Aptera are the only two companies we know of that are using Alafe in-wheel motors at the time. So I was kind of hoping that Lordstown would do well. But now that we're looking at the final specifications and they're finally in production, they've made exactly two of these things. Well, that was 2 months ago, so maybe they've made 10, 15 of these things now. Um, the specifications are not impressive, unfortunately. So it has a base price of $65,000. It has a 109 kilowatt hour battery pack that has an EPA mileage of 200 miles. That is, I mean, that's going to be a hard sell. I mean, the thing personally to me uh, doesn't look great. I don't, it's just not an attractive vehicle for me personally. Of course, appearance is subjective. Um, But if you were a fleet buyer or wanting to buy a truck, are you going to pay $65,000 for a vehicle from a financially strapped new manufacturer that gets 200 miles of range with a 109 kilowatt hour battery pack? Or are you going to pay $52,000 for a Ford F-150 from a very well-known manufacturer that has a long history, and Ford's going to be around, and they give you 230 miles out of a 98 kilowatt hour battery. So smaller battery pack, more range. So it's a more efficient vehicle. So I don't know what Lordstown did to make their trucks so inefficient. They're using in-wheel motors, which are supposed to be more efficient overall, yet they have far less efficiency. Now, the theoretical 1,000 mile Aptera has a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack and has a 1,000 mile range. This thing has a bigger battery pack and 200 miles range. So it's more than 5 times less efficient than the Aptera, which is kind of bonkers. So, anyways, I just wanted to say that I'm quite impressed that Fisker Ocean, they announced a production date 2 years ago, very specifically, actually. They didn't say like sometime in 2022 or late 2022. They said November 2022. Then a year later, when usually things slip, they said, no, now it's going to be November 17th, 2022. Then, indeed, on November 17th, they say we have started production. And if you look at it more carefully, no, they actually started production even earlier. So they beat their own estimates. And if you just compare that to the timeline slippage on the Cybertruck and Lordstown, Canoe, bunch of other places, other startups at EVs, it is quite impressive. I'm, I'm, I'm not super impressed with the car necessarily, but I'm very impressed by them being able to stay on schedule and not have production slip. So actually, I am gonna look a little more carefully at that Fisker pair. It seems very interesting. It's a under $30,000 vehicle, and I'll probably have a follow-up video about that. All right, well, tell me what you guys think about this news. Do you think it's impressive that Fisker met their production timeline as much as I am? And what do you think is going to happen to Lordstown? And do you think that Cybertruck will actually be built in 2023? Or do you think it's going to slip farther? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks as always to our supporting members. Have a great day, everyone.